Ladies and gentlemen, our panel discussion put the spotlight on AI Unleashed, transforming retail with smarter, faster, and more personalized solutions. I'd like to introduce our distinguished moderator and panelist to you. Please put your hands together for Partner Technology Consulting, Ernst Young, our moderator, Vipin Gupta. Come on, guys, a round of applause. He is General Manager Product and Technology, McDonald's India. Please welcome Jagpreet Pabla. He is Chief Information Officer and Head Supply Chain, Bestseller India. Please welcome Ranjan Sharma. He is Vice President and Chief Technology Officer, TVS Electronics Limited. Please put your hands together for Srikaanth Viswanathan. He is Head of Technology, Tim Hortons India. Let's make some noise for Sujoy Mitra. He is Chief Executive Officer, Delopt. A warm welcome to Suresh Baroth. He is President Chief Information Officer, Landmark Group. Please welcome Mr. Vikramidnani. Come on, ladies and gentlemen, can we have a collective round of applause for our entire panel and our moderator as I hand over to Mr. Vipin Gupta and the panel. Over to you, sir.
Anyways, hi, good evening, everyone. So thank you very much for allowing us the opportunity, Rai, to come here and share our thoughts. And I think it's a very esteemed and learned panel. So I'm hoping, and I'm not hoping, but I'm thinking that it'll be a good intellectual test to the intellectual capabilities of the next 50 minutes. The topic is AI Unleashed, and Vikram, I'll take the liberty to take that quote which you just said. I think that Sam Altman unleashed AI in 2022, and all we are sitting here and trying to leash it and still trying to understand what goes around it. So I think that's how we start. I think AI is probably the most cliched word now, I think, in the corporate chatter that is going on. Any conference that you go, hardly any conversation goes with not talk about AI. But I think the question that rises in front of us is it really something which is real? Or is it just everyone is saying it's a FOMO and everybody wants to jump into this and do something about it? Because all our business executives are saying, what are we doing in AI? While people may not understand what AI is. So I think that's I think the key question. But I think the data is suggesting that almost 70%, more than 70% of the organizations are actually doing at least one use case on AI. So definitely something is going on. And I think I just take a small anecdote from my own family. A few days ago, my wife was taking Masters in Psychology exams. And I think she was asking me a lot of questions around all that, the exams which is going on. I'm like, I don't understand this. Why are you asking me? And suddenly she stopped asking, questions. And by the way, just to context her technology, like savviness goes only up till WhatsApp, right? So that's her. But then after some days, she started saying, "Arey, ab to, AI se sab kuch mil jata hai, and I'm just getting it from there." I was like, "How?" He said, "Just go to WhatsApp, type the question, and everything is there." So I thought, and that's what I think. Maybe it's real. It's because it is coming to the ground realities, and I think now, today I think we'll discuss in the next probably 47 minutes on whether it's a hype, whether it's a reality. And as Suresh said, are we going to a Minority Report kind of a future where everything is visualized? So we'll discuss, I think, all of that in the next 50 minutes. So I'll start, I think, with just an open-ended question and I go around the table, starting with you, Vikram. I think in terms of, I think each one of you is representing various kinds of businesses in terms of various sizes and also the business maturity, right? We have, Tim Hortons on one side, while the brand is great, but it is still, I think, new in India versus, let's say, Landmark and maybe Bestseller are more mature, and we have B2B businesses as well. So what do you think, from your vantage point, each one of you, is it AI is a hype or a reality? And if you think it's a reality, how are you going about it?
See, I think AI is as much a hype or reality as anyone would make of it, right? It's an extremely powerful tool, definitely very powerful, and one should look at how to actually leverage it to gain whatever benefits they want to do for their businesses. Okay. Now that said, I think the way to approach it, to make it into a reality, how to kind of leash this tool and turn it into reality, I think the approach one needs to take is like a design thinking approach. Rather than say that, what are we doing with AI, right? Rather than ask that kind of question, I think the question that should be asked is, what are my problems in my business? And hence, what are the kinds of solutions I need to implement? And does AI solve any of them? Okay, I think that's the way to approach it. And we can talk about specific use cases in the following questions through the session. But essentially, one needs to understand it's an extremely powerful tool and approach it through a design thinking approach. Understand your problems and then see whether AI is relevant for it. Chances are AI may not be relevant, then don't even follow it. There's no need to do something with that. That's my simple take on it.
Thanks, Vikram. I think it's a great point. I think somebody also, when you were doing the preliminary discussion, somebody also said, I think ChatGPT is trying to find the problems it should solve rather than the other way around. So I think that's exactly the point. I think let me come to Suresh. I think Suresh, now, of course, you're in your CEO role. You have a much larger view of things, and I think and your company is also in the B2B space. So how are you? What are you thinking? It's bigger in the product development. How your customers are seeing it? How are you seeing AI?
So what I see that I think it must have been hype possibly some time back, but if I look at as on today, for sure it's a reality. My company Delopt, which is into the product development, footfall counting, which is our base product. If I look at possibly 8 years back or so, possibly the only use case that we used to look at was that, okay, how many people possibly came inside the stores, how many went out. And what I see today, after all these years, and today I find that all the customers that I'm going and meeting, they are saying that what more can you give me out of this solution? And people are asking more and more analytics out of it. And that in fact can come out only if I have a very large scale data model built up, some kind of data which actually I ingest, and thereafter whatever prediction that I'm able to make on it can happen only through this AI definition. So it's a reality and it's here and now.
Okay, great. So we have 2 out of, I think, 6 votes on that. Sujoy, over to you. I think you're a B2C business. So how are you seeing? Is AI also going to create a cup of coffee for us, or how is it going to come in the future?
So I think it's still at a very nascent stage. I think it is still, for me, it's still on a hype side of it as we see it. And if we really look into the last couple of months or a year or two, what has really happened is Gen AI has come. Traditional AI has been there, and it has been just growing from a very linear standpoint, right? And I think everybody is searching for a use case, okay, the right use case, because there is fair bit of cost involved, right? And that's exactly what even Vikram, you were talking about, right? So in the next couple of years, we will definitely see it showing results. There are a lot of opportunities on the back-end space, the operation space, the supply chain space. There are a lot of, especially in our context, in our B2C context, F&B retail context, there are a lot of opportunities there because that brings in a lot of volume, especially in a country like India. Okay, when you're dealing with volume, that brings in a lot of volume. But I guess we are still on the initial stage in terms of usage. Of course, one can always say that one can use it in the consumer space as well, but that's going to be extremely tactical.
Interesting. So you're saying it's still a couple of years away for you. It still feels like a hype. Sorry, Srikaanth, I'm going to jump the queue a little bit. I'll come back because Ranjan, what do you think? Because I think your same space. I know it's coffee and it's fashion retail. And what is the view on B2C space? What Sujoy said?
So I think, Vipin, I would slightly disagree, or maybe my thought from my organization perspective is slightly different. Because where I think from an AI perspective, AI has been there for a while. AI and ML models have been there for a while. It's not something new that's coming. And if you remember, ML models are something that we have been using for ages now, right? So nothing new has come in. It's just that the way how you package it, and as retailers, we've been collecting and generating humongous amount of data, which we are not using earlier. We were not being able to create right insights out of it, and that is where we are in an advantage point. At the same time, we also are at a disadvantage point because the quality of the data is not right. We've not thought from a perspective of how we are going to leverage that data. We were more focused on the sales data. We were more focused on the inventory data. And some basic purchase and procurement data is where we were largely focused, and financial data is where we were focused on. There were a lot of actionable data which was still available, which we are not leveraging. And that's the space, that's the opportunity which humongously, because of the size of the data, you just cannot humanly be able to do that. That's where AI is playing a role. Now, I completely agree with what Vikram said. Every organization has to figure out what are the priorities, set their right priorities, set the right use cases, maybe start playing around with a couple of use cases, do a few use cases, try out, see how it works. But one thing for sure, as you start moving more towards the maturity, I think it's important to start thinking on the governance, because this can absolutely go wrong. You also need to address a lot of the fear factor which is there within the organization. You need to understand that. You have to embed that into, because we've still been a huge amount of human dependent organizations. How do you embed that into the overall culture of the organization and give the, try to use AI more from a perspective of enhancing the worker or the productivity of the person or his capability rather than replacing him. Think from that perspective, and then the use cases will start evolving, and then there will be better maturity and acceptance as well. Because without the right acceptance, it becomes very, very difficult to move ahead.
No, I think that's a great summary in terms of the actually the entire panel itself, saying, it's a reality and it's a powerful tool. Leverage all the powerful data which is there in the organization, but address all the concerns that are there in terms of business, cybersecurity, adoption, and everything. So great summary, I think, Ranjan there. What about you, Jagpreet? What do you think? Are burgers going to be AI driven now, or AI? All the flavors are going to be AI driven? What is the thinking?
So, I have a very interesting thing I read recently, that ChatGPT, it is writing stories for us and
Yes.
creating, drawing pictures for us.
Yes.
So people are saying the things that people actually enjoy doing, that AI is doing now, and it is leaving the boring work of every day
Chatting
to humans.
Yeah.
So I think, so leaving the anecdote aside, we are in a very simple business in one way in retail. We have to sort of try to make people buy more and then spend the least amount of money while providing them the products and services we are, right? So there are a lot of problems to solve here. Now we have to see, just like how Vikram said, how AI can help us in specific problem areas. So it is not like a cure-all. It's not a magic bullet. It still is a problem which is looking for a solution to fit into. So it's a solution which is looking for a problem to fit into. So we will see how it evolves. Everybody is trying out with the data they have, but nobody knows for sure as far as I understand.
Okay, great. Srikaanth, now let me come to you. I think you are completely, in a way, it's a B2C business, but it's a combination of B2B, B2C in products and services. So what's your view?
I think to me, AI is a reality. We all are faced with it day in and day out. At TVSC, we have been constantly looking at ways and means to enhance the customer experiences. And, AI really comes in as a very good tool to provide those game-changing experiences, starting from, the personalized recommendation all the way to the predictive analytics of the device life, the usage based on the usage pattern, and trying to provide a kind of intuitive alerts to the users on what is happening to the printer heads and stuff like that. So definitely there are a lot of use cases, but I think like rest of us felt at what cost and at what scale we can achieve. And given the fact that we are also very much device specific, device centric, we also need to understand that a bit more. Still early days, but we are definitely seeing the possibilities of adoption within TVS Electronics.
Great. I think so. Overall summary, if I were to just summarize, in the last 5-7 minutes, I think everybody is sort of agreeing that it is a reality or going to be reality in the coming sort of in the near future, but we should be addressing the problems rather than taking it and saying what can I solve for you, right? So I think so that's, and I think as Ranjan mentioned, addressing all the barriers as well, which we'll of course talk about in shortly. So now moving on to, I think maybe making it a bit more specific. I think if I were to divide, let's say, a standard company value chain into three parts: consumer focused and operations, including supply chain and the back end. And then we have businesses who are B2C, B2B, or new B2C. What are the specific use cases that are coming to mind? I don't know. Maybe let me start with Suresh. You have a holistic view, and then maybe we'll go around. What kind of use cases you're seeing which has actually quantifiable ROI? Because in a way, I think yours is very different because you're trying to monetize as well, AI, right? But where are you seeing most traction? Is it consumer, operations, or corporate?
So I think our focus, in giving the value back to the customer, I look at two segments. One is the consumer and second is the operations. If I look at the consumer part, actually, what is more important for a retailer is that it's just not that how many people came in or how many people went out, but I think you are also trying to see that how do you maximize your revenue? How do you monetize more out of whatever retail space that you have? Which essentially means that if you are able to assess how the consumer behavior is when he is coming in, what level of marketing campaigns needs to be modeled or changed based on him coming in, him or her. So typically the gender demography, the dwell time, the way the people move around in the store, all of that actually, if you can get in and therefore present the data back to the retailer so that he can bring in better marketing campaigns, and as a result, his revenue maximization happens. This is one part of the story. The second use case is more on the operational efficiencies, which essentially means that during the time of the day, how many people are coming in, and therefore you are able to model your staff appropriately. This is the second use case that I look at.
But Suresh, in this, so I understand the use cases, but have you done any implementation, or are you in process of doing any implementation where actually both these metrics are showing quantifiable outcomes?
Right now, yes, we are in a beta phase on that, and the solution is likely to come out in the fourth quarter.
Okay. Let me move to Vikram. I know the maturity of your business is quite high. I mean, we've been shopping with Lifestyle almost now for 20 plus years now. Where are you seeing, because as we were discussing earlier, like as a ex-Starbucks person, I will jump to consumer, but what are you seeing? Which part of the business are you seeing the most sort of impact?
Yeah, see, I think consumers like the sexy part of it.
Yes.
Let's just address the
Yes.
But I think we are maybe being a little more practical about it and saying, as I said, the design thinking aspect of it, that what are my problems, in my business, and of course, there are tons of efficiency-based problems that need to be solved. So we are looking at efficiency as the core need and need to leverage AI. Now, when we look at efficiency, again, supply chain can be a huge area where we can bring in. But we are looking at smaller wins. Supply chain can be also more complex of a solution to try to solve. Probably too big a problem to try to solve. So we said, let's look at the obvious stuff. Now, we have content on our websites, right? On our website and app. And this content, we have like, let's say, 60,000, 70,000 SKUs that get put up onto my, onto my web and onto my apps on a regular basis. There's options all the time coming in, right? How do we generate copy for all of that content? Copy means I have an image, I shoot a new line, a new shirt with a new style has come in. How do I take a picture and then generate copy for it? Now we have like an army of people who are sitting and writing copy for it. We said, let's look at options and let's look at ways where can AI solve this type of problem? And yes, it can, because the advantage with Gen AI is it's able to read a picture and looking at the image, it's then able to generate copy, which then we have a lot less work to pretty much validate that copy and make sure that it is right and the tonality, etc., is good. So that's one very simple use case that we are looking to do, content. Another area which is very, very obvious for us, we haven't implemented, but we are in early stage of kind of putting in a solution, is my store workforce, for example, right? My stores have different levels of sale at different points in time. Okay, at certain time you have peaks and you have surges where you need more staff, and there are times when you don't have, where you need less staff. So that's another area where we're looking at saying how do I optimize my workforce and get a predictive way of looking at it, not a real-time kind of a view. Get a predictive based on history and the type of data you feed into it. So I think these are a couple of things. I'll just take one more example that we are looking at. Uh, Lifestyle, Max, all of our businesses, they sell on marketplaces, right? Amazon, Ajio, Myntra, Flipkart, etc. These marketplaces are not consistent in the type of imagery that they want us to put on it, right? So if you see an image of a certain product on a Max app, you will not see the same image of the product on an Amazon or a Myntra, Flipkart, because they have certain standards that they want to maintain. They want certain things. So we have to now adjust images for every single marketplace. And that's a humongous amount of work for the same SKU. I need to now resize this image and all of that stuff for each individual marketplace. So that's an area where we are again leveraging AI and ML to be able to resize images, doing that. But we are going a slightly different approach on this one. Normally you look at products that are available in the market. Here we are building our own capability to do it because we know this is a long drawn process. It's a permanent process that we'll have to do. So we're building capability in-house and developing this whole thing in-house. That's how.
Very good. Thank you, Vikram. I think it's a great, I hope in the audience also, I think getting 4 specific use cases, I think on this, it's a great thing. Just a follow-up question. When you were saying generating copy of the content for your mobile and web, how are you managing the brand consistency? Because one of the, as I said in my earlier role, one of the challenges that we had was whenever we're producing copies for the consumer facing, brand always comes in and it's, your scale and, scale is very different. So how are you managing that?
So we are not doing it for brands. We are doing it for private label. Essentially for our private label. Max is completely private label. Lifestyle has a mix of brands and private label. So we are looking at private label at present. Yeah. Okay. And to take even Ranjan's point earlier, when he talked about the kind of data that we are using, I think it's important to set the inputs, the quality of data that you are giving it. So if I don't set any guardrails for the AI tool to use, it will generate copy of any type. So we have to make sure that we set certain criteria, certain guardrails, as I'm saying, that it should, tonality, the types of words, etc., it should use are similar to our kind of signature, Okay. That's important.
Interesting. So coming to you, Ranjan, now, I think, Ranjan, because you have a dual role of a supply chain and IT. And I think it's very easy, as I was saying, for maybe for Jagpreet and I to get a little bit more fancy towards consumer focused. But how are you balancing this? Because you have a different vantage point, I think, as compared to other people on this panel.
So I think the way how we approach it, we approached this a few years back and we started exploring on AI almost, if I remember correctly, this was way back in 2018. And the first problem that we wanted to, in a fast fashion space, what is your biggest problem? Finding a hero product. A product that you think can sell well. Because that is where the money is. And if you look at the whole fashion space, the fast fashion space, 20% of the merchandise at the end of the season is a leftover. That's huge money. Then to top it up, the amount of discounting that you offer to the consumer, a blanket discounting, to be able to reach that 80%. That's again a huge revenue loss or a leakage or opportunity lost for you. So the first area that we looked at was how do we spot trends? That's where we started leveraging AI, where we started scrapping different, we worked with a partner. Obviously, we did not invest into the technology ourselves. But we worked much more closer to build the business rules and things like that to be able to scrap different portals, be able to identify the trends where customers were clicking, where customers were doing some actions. Take that out, maybe convert that into whatever is relevant for us. And the next phase was about then bringing that into our context, into our brand context, creating a product out of that, take that inspiration, create a product into our context, and then be able to see how much could you possibly make, or how much does it make sense, or what are, and then we brought in the explainable AI capability where it was looking at the factors where, in terms of saying, what are the factors which are pushing the sales up, what are the factors which are pushing the sales down. So which means that you could also identify if the color is pushing the sales down, or the fabric is pushing the sales down, what do you need to do? Then there is an actionable for you. That's where we brought in something, we built a custom solution there. We worked with a partner again with their research lab, and we built this solution. We launched this in 2020. Post that, what we did, and this started giving us a lot of predictive capability in terms of the number of samples or the number of options that we were supposed to generate. So this reduced humongous amount of options that we were generating. And it started giving us more insight in terms of where we need to be. Yes, the designer always still had where he could overrule basis his gut, because the AI, if it does not have the data, it might not be able to predict. Then we took up the other, and as COVID hit in 2020, we also started taking up other use cases in terms of saying, what if people are not available? How do we service a customer? And that's where the customer service bots and bots in terms of being able to sell to consumers is something that started coming in. So that's a space that we went ahead in about 21, 22. As I speak, we are trying to build, though there are more use cases that we are solving. As I speak, we are now starting to go onto generative AI, where we are trying to look at, we've run a large data program. Now, as an outcome of the data program, as I said earlier as well, there is humongous amount of data. How do you make sense out of the data? Does everybody understands the data? Out of that data, at the analytics layer itself, how can you start giving insights and actionable to people who are supposed to just action? That's the next phase where we are now moving towards. That's something that we are working on, where we can again automate those actions if at all the person says yes or no, or if they want to alter something. So that's the next phase of actionable that we are moving towards. So that's primarily a journey that we've taken.
So it seems that if on the three pillars, the customer, the operations, and the corporate, I think both customer and operations is a heavy focus area.
Absolutely.
And I think very interesting use cases. I think the scale will enable that. How can you then take the clickstream data from your own side and then feed into product development? I think absolutely utopia for a lot of retail companies. So thank you very much for sharing. Moving on to now Sujoy. I know Sujoy, you said it's still in the hype phase for you. But if you were to then pick up, where would you focus? Customer, operations, and corporate, and why?
The focus area would be operations.
Okay.
Because of course, the number of the volume of data that is there and the number of use cases that are possible. And now, coming down to say our sector, which is F&B, the way one of the major areas, one of the major use cases, is on getting replenishment right, right? Because unlike retail, we are basically talking of raw materials and forming the finished goods. Many places, in many parts of F&B, restaurants and certain types of cafe. And this, while it can be done on a retrospective basis, okay, you can look at it over a weekly detail, and those models are available anyway. But the idea is to how to get it in near real time, right? And now this has multiple factors involved in it, right? Factors of what is your enhanced stock, what is it, as in what is the sales, what is the rate of sales at the store, and that is also a factor of multiple things, okay? The kind of offer communications that are out there, the kind of probably X number of customers have only limited days left for their expiry, okay, of their loyalty, loyalty points. It can be n number of factors. Now, since there are n number of factors, it varies. The variations, the variables are so many. That's a very, very good example of a very good business case for AI to chip in. Now, connected to this is another major problem that all F&B partners face, and that's wastage, right? And when we talk of wastage, one part is, of course, tied to what is the stock that you have ordered and all of that. But there is another part which is tied to, so it wouldn't work in silos. So to say AI just wouldn't work in silos. It has to work. I mean, if things like wastage, physical inventory, it has to improve. It has to work in tandem with other solutions like IoT. Correct? Because unlike retail, wherein you can count pieces, we are talking of huge number of raw materials and getting ready for the next day of operations, right? So that's a huge, there is quite a bit of focus that can work out there. One area from a corporate where I would actually pick out, which is true for retail, which is true for F&B being a subset of retail, is price prediction. Right.
You mean how to price the right price for the coffee? Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
It can be anything, right? I mean, we are talking of overall retail, but yes, in our case, definitely it's coffee. So price prediction. Now you have multiple data points over large number of days, large number of months. Okay, and there are quite a few good statistical models out there, right? There are fairly good statistical models out there, even though they are few. Okay, but the question is now, if you have the capability of, I mean, you have the model of AI there, how do you leverage that further? Okay, that's point number 2. From a consumer standpoint, so I would still say the focus would be on the backend side. From a consumer standpoint, couple of areas definitely come out. One is, of course, recommendation engine. Question is it really AI? Okay, because it is not really AI. Okay, of course, one can leverage capabilities, but I think it would be an overkill to say that. Okay, the other thing comes down to is the segmentation part of it, right? Customer segmentation as of yet is still extremely static. All right, and you can add n number of attributes to it and get it much sharper set of communication to the customer. Right. I guess that's another area one can definitely look at.
So, great. I think thank you very much for sharing the use cases. Jagpreet, anything you would like to add? I think I know similar businesses. So anything that you would like to add on this one?
I'll mirror what Sujoy was saying. So we've looked at it again, AI on the 3 fronts of consumer, operations and corporate. So what we realized, our money comes from the consumer, our costs are in stores, are in operations. And also our quality and our touch points are in operations. So corporate is for us out. We are looking at consumer. And very similar use cases. Personalization is something we already have operationalized.
Yeah, the keyword is missing, personalization. Yes.
Yes, so personalization is something that we already have in place in some of our digital touchpoints wherever possible. Then we're looking at how we can have a tighter quality controls in the stores and also understand customer emotions using AI in the stores. So in the stores as well as in our digital touch points with the consumers is where we are looking to leverage AI.
So tomorrow if I don't like the burger, then you will know.
Yeah, you just have to wink at the camera and we'll know.
Okay, great. So Srikaanth, I know again different framework for you. What specific use cases are you seeing in your industry?
Yeah, so from retail solutions provider perspective, clearly there are use cases around the point of sale system. So how can I seamlessly enable the point of sale billing application? So for example, how can I leverage computer vision to let the checkout clerk to quickly, pass the items through, because the system automatically detects whether it is a carrot or an apple or a stuff like that. So it kind of enables them to quickly move on with the billing queue. So that again enhances the customer experience of minimal wait time while billing.
So these are, I'm assuming, are in POC stage, right? Or these are actually
these are very much available commercially.
Wow.
And TVSC is also looking into those areas.
Very nice.
And of course, when you combine AI with IoT, predictive analytics, and computer vision, there are many use cases within the in-store. Within the store itself, we can look at, including the inventory management in the racks, and how can you enable, the customers to, go for the right product, in terms of the selection offering the right criteria based on their past purchase or based on certain inputs what you can take. So it can give some kind of input around the choices that the customer can make. So there are many such use cases. What I believe that from a retail store perspective, we can enable through our solutions and offerings, and that is what we are looking to achieve.
Very good, very good. I think that will be a great. I think as I was telling in our prior, like the JWT technology, I think if something similar can be done. I don't know if everybody audience. So JWT is just walk out. The Amazon Go example where you just pick up and your bill gets added to your mobile. So I think something like that would be cool to do in India. Yeah, Vikram, you have wanted to add
I
something.
want to play the contrarian on this one.
Okay.
That Amazon Go was a very good example of using computer vision for being able to automatically, detect product and be able to walk out. But I was having a conversation with someone some time back that they are scaling down those stores. It's not serving the purpose it has actually intended to serve. So I think computer vision may be in a hype cycle at present. Operationalizing it might take a good amount of time, I think. And for retail to have a customer touchless, I mean, in India is a long way away.
People will find, as you said, they will create more problems that will need to be then further solved by vision. I think.
No,
So,
I think also from a self checkout perspective, especially I'll talk about fashion. We still have a lot of other hindrances that needs to be overcome from a customer self checkout perspective.
No, it is.
Like a security tag. You cannot allow a customer to actually pull out a security tag.
Yeah.
We still use a lot of those EA security tags in our stores. Folding and packing it in fashion, it's not a grocery item where it's a packet that you need to just pick it up and put it in a bag. It's a folding and packing. You need to fold it, pack it, remove the security tag. How do you do that? So that I think it's still.
Any viewpoints on any viewpoints on what Decathlon is doing in India? I think they have these self checkout kiosk. I personally use I felt they were pretty easy. I don't know, any views on that?
I've been using them since the time they launched it actually, and I love that. But even if you look at what percentage of garments is what or fashion products is what they sell.
They sell. Yeah.
Majority of the products is itemized.
Itemized.
Right,
That
and that
true.
is still easier to
Non-experience
check
based.
out on a self checkout.
Right,
You can do it on yourself, but then it's all about if 90% of your buy is about itemized product, then fashion, if you've clubbed it, the customer is willing to do that. But
Interesting.
if you're only selling fashion, then it becomes difficult.
No, and there is an experience element also, right? So I may not want to do when I'm buying a Veramoda dress, or my wife she wants that whole experience element of it, right?
Precisely. and that's the difference that you're wanting to create from an e-commerce to a store, because
Yeah.
store is something that you still want to call as an experience center. You want to provide a different elevated experience to the consumer. You want the customer to keep coming back. Why will a customer take that effort, spend time, energy, money to come and walk up to your stores? They need to get that experience out of the store.
Right. No, great. Vikram, you wanted to say something? Yeah.
I was going to take the example of Decathlon. I'm an active, very active customer at Decathlon, and they're using, RFID tags first thing, which are, which are just built into the product, right? So you can walk out with that. Two is, I think it's worth checking. They don't have security tags on most of their products,
No, they
right?
don't. Yeah.
So probably there might be an ROI over there, that how much do I want to solve for the exception or do I want to solve for the rule? Okay.
Right.
Maybe depends business to business, but that's probably an approach they might be looking at, and hence not have the ES tags in there. Yeah.
Okay. Great. So I think so far, I think we've established the fact that AI is a reality, and we have to use AI to solve the business problems rather than the other way around. And I think all panelists have given wonderful use cases. I hope the audience had a chance to note them down, because I have, and they are, I think, great nuggets. I think which are there, whether it's customer around personalization, and I think hero product and trends and everything, and operations, how to reduce the cost. So I think it's great. So I think last topic I know we are only 12 minutes left, so maybe I'll just summarize the last topic and maybe go around the table. I think at least with our clients, we are seeing a lot of the barriers that are there. There are 2-3 dimensions of that. One is your I think architecture is the main, like, is your systems ready? And especially, I believe personally that a lot of the front end stuff that we want to do around consumer, like recommendations also, how do you really give real time recommendations when somebody opens a McDonald's app? Because, you can't run a real time API, but then you have to do like an interim layer where you store these recommendations, but that interim layer adds to the cost per transaction. How do you solve all of that, right? So that is there. So architecture, I feel, is a big barrier. I think Ranjan already spoke about change management and aligning the business needs is a big barrier. And of course, I think the skills or availability of the skills, and depending on whether you do it in-house or outsource, I think that also, like, how many people actually can confidently stand up, saying I can give you an AI product, because actually it doesn't exist, right? So maybe I'll just go around the table and quickly, if you can summarize, out of these three areas, architecture, change management, and skill availability, or the talent availability, or the vendor availability to do something like that for you, where are you seeing the most challenges? And any advice to either people who are listening or in the audience, or just for the editorial, what is advice? How should people approach it? Maybe Jagpreet, I will start with you from here.
Sure. We might not have answers. We're still exploring, but
Yes.
what we've seen is vendor availability is for the common use cases is not a problem. We have a fair number of vendors.
Okay.
Skill availability is, because we are trying to build some models in-house.
Okay.
So
skill availability is a challenge.
is a challenge.
Vendor is not for the common use cases.
For the common use
Okay,
cases.
interesting.
Skill availability also, if you take some time and patience to find people who can figure things out, what we call, then they're able to. So
Okay.
one great thing about AI is it is not as difficult to use anymore as it used to be a few years ago. So
Yes,
that's
true.
the
Democratization has happened. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
that's true. So that's one. Architecture, again, it's unless you're using established vendors, is a challenge. So that's again something that you'll have to figure out. But I think going through the process of figuring these things, even if you're outsourcing your activities, is a great exercise to go through, because then you can actually evaluate vendors' products and their solutions in a much better way if the knowledge is built to some degree in-house.
Okay, so definitely. So then you're saying architecture is a challenge, vendor is not a challenge, but skill availability is a challenge. What about change management? We didn't touch on that, no?
So change management is definitely a challenge.
Is a challenge, okay.
But to a smaller degree, I think a lot of people are open to using AI. Businesses are very cognizant of the FOMO, as we had mentioned
Yes.
earlier, right?
Yes.
So everybody's like, I don't want to miss out on the bandwagon. So it's a smaller challenge than the other two, in my opinion.
Interesting. So that very interesting, actually. And I think change management is a big problem. Architecture is a big problem. Skill availability is a big problem. So let me, I think, jump to Ranjan. I know in terms of your journey is far more mature. I think, as you said, in 2018, so maybe 6 years into this. Where are you seeing the challenges and how are you solving it? Because I think Jagpreet mentioned we haven't solved it yet. So maybe do you have any advice for everybody else? How do you solve it?
So I think skill is definitely a problem. Obviously, there is a skill scarcity. Getting the right quality of resources, and Jagmeet rightly said, if you're working with vendors, for sure. So that's the approach we've taken. We are not trying to build skills in-house.
Okay.
We are working more with vendors and partners to be able to do a lot of these things.
So I'll just interrupt on there. Sorry, Ranjan, not to disrupt your thought, but I just have a side question on this. You said, if people were to do, let's say, outsourced model, is it feasible, or do you think something like this will have to be done in-house?
See, one thing is for sure, because AI being able to define, if you're trying to define this or go through a normal process of defining an ROI or a TCO, you might not be able to do it.
Okay.
Because this is an innovative space to be in. You might have to, there is a lot of iterative process, there's a lot of learning which is going to come out of it. You'll have to be, you'll have to start with the thought process of saying, this is an area, this is a problem that I have. How much benefit can I derive out of it? Can I solve the problem? Can I get some benefit out of it? You being able to quantify it on day one might not be possible. And hence, the cost factor, cost to benefit ratio is something you might not be able to define on day one.
Okay.
You just might be wanting to say, and my boss says it very, very well. He says anything beyond 0 or above 0 is better.
I wish
You today are at a point of 0. Even if you are able to achieve a couple of percentage points, That is only taking you to a better position.
I would just say that I wish we all had that bosses. I don't think our bosses are that kind to say that. But anyways.
Yeah, and I think skill is definitely if you want to hire it. So I think and there are different kinds of skills required. So being able to hire all those kinds of skills, and you might not need it for them forever. So being able to hire and retain them is going to be an additional overhead for you. Until and unless you have a clear pipeline of saying, this is what I want to do at least for the next couple of years. I have enough work for them to be able to do this. The second is architecture. For sure, that's a problem. That's ever evolving because we really not even sure of what kind of use cases we want to solve today. So until and unless we are very, very sure about what we want to solve, how we are going to solve it, we cannot fix the architecture problem around it. There was a third area that you talked about.
So architecture, skills, and change management.
Change management. I think change management, it becomes very easy. People keep talking about AI. The moment you want to go into their function and say, I want to solve this problem through AI, they will be the first people to resist it.
Very interesting.
So obviously, talking about AI, asking for AI is the easiest thing than actually going ahead and using it. Because it also brings in a lot of transparency. It brings in solves a lot of our inefficiencies which people are not willing to let go.
Very interesting, huh? Because Ranjan, I think few years ago, at least couple of years ago, people used to think, I know I did also presentations similar at a large forum, and I think change management used to be the common issue that people spoke about. But interestingly, this panel is saying, given all the hype, change management is actually the easier problem to solve than the other two. Very interesting. Vikram, I'm going to jump the queue. I know your journey is also longer. Which challenges are you seeing? I know you had a point around skills as well. So do you want to just...
Yeah, so I think architecture very clearly is important for any organization. You have to get your data strategy right, because if you're going to build AI tools on top of your data, so you've got to get your data strategy right. That's fundamental. Architecture is an issue. Change management, I think, is the opposite issue. I mean, Ranjan said rightly, that everyone, the moment you say that let's solve this through AI, everyone, you will have all the hands up in the room saying yes, let's do it. So I think the problem is the reverse. That listen, tell them half knowledge is actually more dangerous for us than anything else. So you say, hold on, everything doesn't have to be solved with AI. So then you kind of look like the contrarian, but reality is it's a reverse change management problem, I think. Everything cannot be solved with AI. And the third one, as you said, skills. Yeah, so I think the technical skills, one cannot build a whole engineering team around it. I think because you'll have major retention issues and all of that, and you have enough people ready to poach good quality people with you. But I think having small pockets of excellence is important, because while we depend on vendors, products are going to be, I guess, our primary way to look at it also, because they have the wherewithal to give you the best quality of product with the use of AI. So no doubt about that. But we are building skills that not every product or every vendor delivers to the promise that they actually say. And we've had a bad experience there on the AI front itself. So we said we'll build some small targeted use cases in-house and build a small team with a center of excellence, so that if somebody does not deliver for us, we have the ability to fall back on ourselves and do it. That's how we're doing it.
Very interesting. No, thank you, Vikram. Thanks for sharing all the insights. I know we have 4 minutes left, so maybe we'll quickly cover. Suresh, you want to just go next?
So I think when you spoke about architecture, I also take infrastructure as part of it.
Yes.
Actually. And therefore, I always look back at my customer and I feel that this infrastructure is going to be a challenge actually, because when I'm going to possibly install this setup, to my customer's place, whether it's going to be an edge-based device, and naturally he's not going to shell out extra money for that, or is it going to be a cloud-based? Then in that case, the data streaming cost actually, which needs to be taken into account. So that seems to be a bigger challenge that we need to solve at this point of time. The second part, skill for sure is a challenge, and having very core, very strong resources who can really bring out the innovative products. That's the key. I think otherwise, like generalized stuff possibly can be done by our average resources, but here we are looking at innovations to come out so that the very unique use cases that we want to solve can possibly be done through only them.
Interesting. So both skills is a challenge, and then the real cost of running AI is also like a challenge, because you said that all the infrastructure challenges will come into play. Srikaanth, you want to just go ahead and talk about out of the three, on the three pillars, where are you seeing the challenges?
Sure. So first and foremost, I believe identifying the right problem which needs something like AI as a tool to solve is the key. It's going to be the key, because we cannot really force fit AI into anything and everything, as Vikram also suggested. So I think that is going to be a first piece of suggestion. Secondly, when it comes to skill, we would definitely like to, being in the early stages, would like to tap into the startup community and also collaborate with universities, and that's the way we are approaching. We are looking at approaching as well. And when it comes to change management, yes, there is going to be quite a bit of use cases and the change management that we need to deal with, right from the entire chain of design development and all the way up to the customer support.
Right.
When it comes to devices, we need to really help even the users understand how the product works and so on and so forth. So there is going to be quite a bit of change management effort. And the third piece.
So skills, change management, and architecture.
And architecture, yes, definitely it's completely challenging, because we can leverage IoT, and we can definitely leverage some of those aspects to pull the data out of the devices. But when it comes to deployment of the devices, which we cannot really control, it goes into different, locations where we may not have connectivity, then the challenge of infrastructure at the device level becomes an issue. But even at the, because most of our products are embedded devices, we also have computational power capabilities within the devices, which also becomes a constraint. But I think the challenge is in navigating through all these challenges and finding a real good sweet spot where we can really come up with a effective solution, which can really make a big difference to the customers and the users.
Okay,
That's
great.
the way.
Sujoy, I know with 30 seconds, any last thoughts?
So I think we have fairly covered it. If you're talking of cost is definitely a function of the use case that we select, the architecture that we put out that we need to customize, as well as data, and of course skill as well, right? Because it's a nascent stage that we are talking about, and hence skill is expensive. That's one point. Number two is there are a lot of SMEs and out there which needs that skill to actually leverage that. So that's the way I would put it. The other, with respect to change management, I think we are still a little away from change management, because we need to first identify use cases and then roll it out, and then we will come to that, the issue of change management. But I completely agree with one thought. As I said, little knowledge, it can be extremely dangerous, because one, you would want the moon out of it. But effectively, you will only see incremental results coming up.
Right.
Okay, and that's effectively the way it is.
No, great, thank you. So I think we'll just end the panel here. So I'll just quickly summarize the entire discussion, and thank you everyone for sharing all these precious, I think, insights into this. So AI is a reality. We have to use AI to solve problems. There are many use cases that exist, but largely on the consumer and the operation side, which I think a lot of focus is there. And in terms of challenges, apparently skills and architecture seems to be the two biggest challenges. Change management seems to be more like in the positive direction where everybody wants to do. And I think I'll take that, insight again, Vikram. It's more the reverse change management, right? You have to set the right expectations, because everybody wants to think that once AI is there, it'll all be there, right? My sales will go up, cost will come down, everything will be hunky-dory, but that's not really the case. And I can echo, architecture definitely is a big gap area. So anyways, thank you very much, panel. Thank you very much. And hope, audience, thank you very much for your patience.